Of the program Evidence on Kanato English. For the third consecutive time, the youth parliamentarians in Cameroon have met. Youths usually meet since 2017 at the National Assembly, 180 of them drawn from the national territory to discuss issues that are affecting youths. Given that we are in the month of February, youths 180 of them met at the National Assembly discussing issues that is affecting youths in the country. Cameroon today. Prominent was the issue of the Anglophone crisis, in which most of the youths, both from the military and the equally civilians, are died on daily basis. I am Dominic. Stay with us. Today we are receiving a youth parliamentarian from the southwest region of the country. He's coming from Libialem division. He represented the Libialem division during the youth parliament that recently rounded up in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Let's welcome Ngengafac Ernest. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Mr. Meme. Once more, I'm happy to be here to discuss issues affecting the youth and to see how we can join our voices to change the problems of the youth in the Cameroon.
You are a youth parliamentarian that represented Libialem division in the southwest region of the country. You met with other youths drawn from the 10 regions of the country in Yaoundé. From the 8th to the 11th of February, you guys were discussing issues that are affecting youths in Cameroon. And the theme for this year's meeting was the development of entrepreneurship and youth employment opportunity in Cameroon. Ernest, how appropriate is the theme for your discussion?
Actually, Mr. Meme, you will understand that the youth parliament is a place where, when you heard about youth parliament, you should be looking at being a body that have to meet and discuss the problems of the constituencies in where representatives are coming from. But now when you look at the team itself is very nice, but the activities that took place to an extent was not satisfactory because most of us end up not being able to pose questions or debate on issues that are affecting our constituency. So that was actually a problem that we have to look into when the next youth parliament comes up.
You are raising a problem there that is very, very pertinent. But before we dive into that, when we talk about parliamentarians, people watching us, we think about that you guys who have voted to go and represent. How is the selection process done?
Actually, it's normally supposed to be done regarding your output in your constituency and how you've been contributing in nation building and community development and all that.
Which means
taken into consideration.
There is no elections organized to
actually,
elect parliamentarians.
Sometimes they use maybe you can be nominated and approved by the body in place, the committee in place, looking at your track record. If you've been doing something productive in your community, at least a lot of people have to table what they've been doing and what they think can permit them to be represented as youth parliamentarians. When they look at your track record and if you merit it, you have been approved to be represented.
What can you tell us, maybe concretely, in concrete terms, what are some of the key issues the youth parliamentarian discussed during the 2019 session?
Mr. Mame, in that direction, I think it was something that was very embarrassing for us youths at our ages to be represented in a youth parliament where we think we were supposed to be given the opportunity to discuss things that comes from our own evaluations. But it was rather not the case in the sense that everything was pre-arranged and we were just allowed to meet up with the formula that was already in place.
When you talk about everything was pre-arranged, what do you mean concretely?
Actually, I'm trying to tell you that, let's look at the question section that normally the set questions will come from all the divisions and maybe from all the regions. And now when you are, most of those questions are questions that were not, I thought in a situation like that when they said maybe, let's take for Southwest, maybe we should meet with the Southwest youth parliamentarians and come out with questions or with what we think is our problem that we have to table in the parliament for that to be analyzed. Okay, now, when we were not, that was not the case because questions were only given to as questions to be asked from by representative from Southwest.
Maybe you tell us, what was the question given to the Southwest representative to ask?
Yes, it was talking about the education and which was not actually, what we are facing in Southwest today predominate education. So we are facing a crisis that have to, like, we have to look into that as our primary worry. You understand? When the question that came up was not actually satisfactory for us because we were supposed to be like talking about the security of our people. We have to look into their security. And some of us will be very embarrassed and our people will be like looking at us to be youth parliamentarian and we went and come back without presenting anything that has to do with their worries. So that is the problem where we really look into that aspect to be something unpleasant.
Now, the question many people watching now will be asking is, we have the National Assembly where 108 parliamentarians are voted to go and represent their various constituency. People think that these parliamentarians, they don't represent their constituency adequately. And we're now talking about youth parliamentarians, people, young people that are not equally, you don't have a mandate because you are not voted. How do you think the youth parliamentarians can contribute successfully to the well-being of their country?
Yes, youth parliamentarian, if it was a country that takes youth into consideration, because for me, what I think is being in and out of Cameroon and looking at how activities are being run by other countries and how youth are being considered into the development of the country, the power given to the youth is not is mandatory in other countries, but here in Cameroon it's just verbal and sometimes just order. You understand? Like I just told you, if after this youth parliamentarian, what next? The agenda was supposed to be, everything was supposed to be arranged, and the youth were supposed to have a forum where they sit to discuss all those issues and say, but okay, this is the youth parliamentarian. What is the project we are looking forward? What are the challenges that we have to look into to face this project that we are putting forward? What are the measures to be applied to achieve this project? This forum was not given for youth to look into, to analyze their own situation themselves. Therefore, I believe that youth in Cameroon are not yet seen as people matured enough to like take responsibility or leadership into their hands. That is very disgracing for me. So
why putting in place a youth parliament in Cameroon when it has,
I think it should somehow, sometimes I just look at it to be political manipulation to make Cameroonians and youth feel that they are included in the decision making, of which actually their decision making, okay, what question was given or what room was given to you to ask questions. Even when I try to like sometimes get angry with the language that was being used without being translated, you have to understand that the Commission for Bilingualism is already in place, and where we don't imagine to face difficulties in language whenever we move in and out of or within Cameroon to face a national event. So we still continue to face this challenge all the time.
Which language was used at the parliament?
For the first session, we have translators been carrying out the two languages, but after the minister and the other representatives, the top officials left, everything was done in French. Even the next day, everything was being done in French. When I tried to come out and speak about this on our behalf of the English people, and some of us to complain, they started calling me rebel. You have to know how aching this is. How can you expect me to go and sit for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, and I'm getting a language that I don't understand, and you are considering me as part of decision making, which, what am I going to take back to my people if I don't understand what is going on?
So you were called rebel parliamentarian?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just, not just, I was being insulted, and I was not given the respect as a citizen that the struggle to like make us feel that Cameroon is bilingual. And we have our taxpayer money being contributed to pay journalists in Cameroon. We have state journalists being paid by our taxpayer money. So we don't even imagine to have problem of language in Cameroon in terms of national event. So when we go to a national event and we still face this challenge of English translators or translation, it becomes a big problem, and we look at what future or what nation are we trying to build. Are we just trying to camouflage the population that everything is moving? And do we just forget that this time or this generation of youth have some kind of common sense, have some kind of knowledge that they have gone to school and study and know how things are supposed to look like? That is when I just look at things, and most of us were very embarrassed that even when we complain, instead to look into the solution, they start to call us names.
I see the frustration you experience there as a youth parliamentarian coming from the southwest or an English part of Cameroon. Now, Ernest, for 4 days, what can we say are some of the concrete resolutions the youth parliamentarian arrive at that needs perhaps implementation?
Actually, Mr. Member, I've told you that it was a youth parliamentarian. That is just how it is. A youth parliamentarian, that is like something that is written that you are reading.
A youth parliament put in place for nothing, perhaps?
That is it. I've said that it's just for, maybe it's just like maybe you want to write something or you just need something to make a project complete. You understand? You just say, okay, let's put youth parliamentarian in place to make Cameroon complete in the management of youth. You understand? So, but to me, actually, when you look at the practical realities, it doesn't reflect the actual youth parliamentarian that we should be talking about here, because the result and the output is close to zero.
What will you expect that the government need to do in order to make the youth parliament a force to reckon with, an institution that can contribute adequately for the improvement of the well-being of youth in Cameroon?
Yes, that is my preoccupation in that area, where I think that for government to make use of the youth and the youth parliamentarian themselves, they need to give credibility. They need to give respect. They need to respect those that they call youth and believe that they have the ability and the strength to come out with something productive. Because by the time they start making us feel that we are just here to represent or to make a project complete, which we are not in the process of contributing for that project to be realized, we feel embarrassed. So next, I will propose that the body in place in charge of this kind of event, when we want to talk about youth activities, they should give priority for youth themselves to come out with project. When they just say, we need a youth parliamentarian, give the announcement. Let the youth themselves come out how they think is best suitable for them. Don't dictate to them, because by the time you dictate to them and come out with resolutions and just present to you as a youth parliamentarian, go and ask this question. That is not the question that is bothering that person. Perhaps he may have burning situations like Ngengafac
that is coming from. You represented Libya-LM division.
Yes.
We know how Libya-LM division has been a center, a battleground between the military and the restoration forces. Were you not given the opportunity to present such a situation at the level of the youth parliament?
Room was not given for that to be done.
You feel
and sometimes even maybe the lectures that were going on, you are not even getting what is being said there.
Why? Because
of the language issue.
Okay.
You understand? So sometimes you are just lost. It's just like you were just invited to meet up a project. Like I said, maybe they just say we need to make a youth parliamentarian, and for it to be matured, we need to have representatives. But they are not looking into how those representatives have to be done, or what they need to carry back home to their population, what impact they need to learn. Because just imagine sitting here in this forum as an observer, as maybe an invitee, and I come here, I sit, what you are saying, I can't get you, I can't take down any note that will go back and reflect on and produce maybe create an impact with what I have heard or learned from that event. That event becomes useless because nothing was being taught, or you learned nothing from that program. You wasted your time, and at the end you came back maybe more handicapped than you left your home.
But some people will say, despite all these criticisms of nothing concrete that was discussed, others will say taxpayers' money was well disbursed and shared to youth parliamentarians. Is that true?
That is not true, because even the parliamentarian, I have to admit that youth are not, we have to work hard to prove that we can do something. And because by the time we continue to look at rely so much on what is being done, on what criticizing the government, you understand, sometimes we make ourselves unable to, like, we are like not being able to maybe produce something or create impact in the community where we are coming from. So I want to believe that we, the youth of Cameroon today, we know how things can be done. Most of us, even put in the top administration offices, we can do a better job. But now, we know that within our reach, we can do something. But the possibility of getting into those offices, into those positions that you can correct some of these mistakes that we are witnessing is very, very slim, that you can't even imagine maybe in the next 10 years or the next 5 years you can, looking at the system in place. So, but if we are well strategized with our own mentality, we can always come out with something productive. So I encourage the youth of Cameroon to, like, commit themselves into community building and come out with projects that are meaningful, that can attract the population to see that they are able. Because when you are talking about being a leader, you must have a track record that people must reference that and see that you have, maybe if they give you a post of responsibility, you are able to handle from the previous one that you were. So I encourage all the Cameroon youth to be able to, like, start creating impact where they are, do something that can be referenced, and then you try to, like, come together. Maybe we can even come together on our own without being invited by the government to say, okay, this is what happened. What can we do? What can we how can we change the situation and avoid this to happen in future? But I think lack of finance to carry out this is affecting
such
youth those initiatives from taking place. Because if we have the ability, like, to come out with this youth parliamentarian that they were there and said, if maybe we have a responsibility to do that, we can gather ourselves and say, okay, this is what we witness. These are the mistakes, and how can we correct? Within ourselves, we can come out with something better
than something organized by the government.
Yes.
If you are just tuning in, this is evidence. We are receiving Ngengafac Ernest. He is a parliamentarian, or youth parliamentarian, that represented the Libya-Lem division in the southwest region of the country in the just ended youth parliament that took place in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Ernest, on the 10th of February this year, the President of the Republic addressed the youth in prelude of before, as in connection to the celebration of the 53rd edition of the National Youth Day on the 11th of February. And one of the key points the President of the Republic mentioned was the fact that the government of Cameroon created a little over 500,000 jobs in the country in the year 2018. How do you react to that?
Mr. Meme, I would not want to question if it is true or not, but we should look at how possible that can be. We look at, let's start on how we know that CDC is the second largest
highest employer
after the state. But now when you look at CDC, last time I followed a program here, and the manager himself was saying that they lose almost everything, more than thousands, maybe not up to 20% of the activities is actually running now. But now, how many thousands of jobs is being lost as a result of that? So now when you look at it and you try to, you will actually see that there is a problem that we have to look into it, and people are aware of this problem. People are aware of the figure. Instead, we are losing jobs in Cameroon as a result of crisis that has been happening all over the country. So we should be looking at how this crisis can be resolved, and those jobs that has been lost as a result of the crisis regain, and then we look at how we can create more jobs to add to it. As of now, we can actually say that more jobs are being taking place than to cry of the loose jobs that we have already in Southwest, Northwest, North, and other places in the country where it's been affected.
Which means you doubt the figures presented by the President of the Republic.
Yeah, the figure may be correct, but compared to the jobs that we've lost.
But when you look at the situation on the field today, do you think people got employed in 2018?
That is why I am saying that when you look at now, if there was a school in Boya here, or in Douala here, where you have job seekers. You will see that the numbers of job seekers have increased because of the crisis all over. So actually,
people who have lost their jobs.
People who lose their jobs in other parts of the country are now coming into other.
Especially CDC.
Yeah, most especially the CDC and other schools. You have to imagine that I have a division where there is actually no school functioning there. So what of those?
All the teachers.
What about the teachers that were being employed on PTA paid payroll? So they have to move to other places to look for jobs. So therefore, they have lost a lot of jobs as a result of this crisis. They may have had the number correct, but when you look at it compared to the number lost, we have to talk more on what we are losing, because what we are losing, if it is greater than what we are earning, we have to identify that to be a problem than a plus.
The president equally applauded the participation of young people during the 2018 presidential elections, and urges them to follow democratic institutions in order to get into power. When you look at the present political context or socio-political context on the field today in Cameroon, is that giving an opportunity to young people to get involved into politics?
Mr. Meme, I'm very disappointed with the system in place for not having created the enabling environment for youth to be actively involved in politics in Cameroon. And it's a very big problem to say things that actually in the field is not realistic. Because when you look at, if you want to become maybe a mayor today, councillor today, they need to look at you from where you're coming from. They need to judge you from your background, from your who you are going to represent. Are you going to abide to our rules and regulation? And they are not looking at what you carry as your own personal content. What productivity can you offer to the society? How can you impact that community? They don't look at your ability to impact the society. They are looking at who you are going to vote. Are you going to belong to CBDM? Are you going to belong to this party or not? So that is where I look at it to be like, it's not actually the problem it's a big problem that we have to look into it. So we have to really talk about that youth inclusion in politics is a joke. It's not yet a realistic something in Cameroon that we can talk about.
Now, what is your reaction as a young person following the present context we find ourselves? We have seen how there have been a lot of protests these days, people marching against the present regime. We had almost 8 out of the 10 regions of the country in the present condition where there's violence in the northwest and the south, where there's kidnapping in the Adamawa region. What is your reaction to the rising state of violence in the country, Cameroon? Was that equally discussed during the youth parliament?
Actually, like I said, those would have been questions that are bothering us youth that would have asked, but yet we were not given those opportunities. Questions were being given to us to ask. You understand? And therefore, when you are working on instruction, you are not working on your own ability. So we were not working on youth ability, we were working on the government instructions. So I would just want to say that looking at what is happening in Cameroon and the crisis, we find ourselves into like youth that we have visions. I want to encourage us that we have to always create environment where we can meet our youth, a forum where youth can be able to meet themselves, dialogue, and come out with resolution. There is a lot we can do. The system is not stronger than the people themselves. If the problem is there is no cordial relationship between the youths themselves.
Now, we are a few minutes to the end of the program, less than 5 minutes to the end of the program. Let me find out from you, as a youth parliamentarian that recently participated in the 3rd edition of the Youth Parliament in Yaoundé. What is your reaction to the National Youth Council in Cameroon?
Mr.
Talking about their activities.
Yeah, the National Youth Council in Cameroon is again another body put in place, which looking at the structure itself.
You are a member at the regional level.
Yeah, I am representative, a divisional representative.
Divisional representative for Libya division.
Yes. Now, when you look at this,
the
body itself would have been given the ability. There is no, how can you run an empty body without funds? You understand? You are supposed to resume duty with some kind of allocated budget for that. You have to run some project. what are the necessary to put in place by the government to see that this body get to achieve its visions. So it's just like I said, a body that has to be read but nothing to realize. It has no power backing on
financial backing.
Financial backing.
Many people think that the National Youth Council in Cameroon is some sort of a youth wing of the ruling CPDM party.
I don't want to believe that is an individual view, because
recently on the 13th of February we saw how the National Youth Council was the principal organizer of the celebration of the 86th anniversary of the President of the Republic. It gives the impression that perhaps the National Youth Council, we can't draw a line between the National Youth Council and the youth wing of the CPDM party. Actually,
you have to understand that you'd have their right to belong to any political party. You understand? So when situations like that comes up, we just look at it is a personal responsibility, as I said, because not everybody in the Youth Council even believe in politics. I myself am not a politician. I don't even want to become one.
But we have not seen any president of the Youth Council that is of the opposition party.
No, there are many of them that, like I
mean, the national president of the Youth Council, none of them have ever come from an opposition party.
No, you don't even know which party they belong until they will tell you that they belong to any.
But we see them militating openly with the CPDM party.
Militating is just a way of proving their own concern. I don't know. Like I said, I myself, I will not be happy to tell you that I'm from, or I will belong to any party, because I don't want to, like, I have a vision, I have a possibility to create impact in my community, and belonging to a party that has a low temperament to produce what I want, discrediting my ability to contribute to my community. So I don't look at party to be like a plus when we are looking at development, because development is supposed to be a duty and not an option. So when we start looking at those things, I just want to say that people have the right to belong to parties, but then what we are looking at as youth, we should look beyond party level.
Ngengafac, Ernest, what would be your last word to youths watching you right now as far as how they can behave for a better Cameroon tomorrow?
I would just want to encourage them that looking at the embarrassment and the challenges we are facing in the country today, we still have a lot to go. We are fortunate to be in the world that we can always do research and see how to correct our mistakes, and where we go wrong, or where the government is not doing the best, we can always come out with something better to correct those areas. So I encourage them to work hard, connect themselves, network themselves with other youth organizations, and with that we can better do something next time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching us in this edition of the program Evidence. We received Ngengafac Ernest. He is a youth parliamentarian that represented Libya division during the just ended youth parliament in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. That was actually the third time that youths were coming together to meet 180 youth selected from the 10 regions of the country to meet together to discuss issues affecting young people in Cameroon. Unfortunately, Ngengafac Ernest sounded disappointed, given that the room was not given to young people to decry the crisis that is going on in the two Anglophone regions of the country. My name is Dominic. Thank you for watching.